Good morning. Good morning.
What's happening?
Do you feel complete having the
I
siren
got a
back?
haircut. Got my haircut.
Yeah. Jake
Got my
went through
horn.
his second round of quarantine.
Yeah, round 2 complete.
Yes.
Yeah, buddy.
No fun.
No fun. So today, homes are selling faster than ever. Zillow just put out an article saying that it was fastest they've ever recorded, which is super exciting. But what are you doing to capitalize on it?
Yeah, fastest rate ever recorded by Zillow. Now I don't know how long Zillow's been recording, but
during some pretty dang hot markets, I will say.
Yeah. It's exciting news, and I mean most people are feeling it all around the country. You know, I mean most agents are just dealing with lack of inventory. You know what I mean? Multiple offer situations, like the market is on fire. And the thing is, if you're not making a great deal of money right now, you should be highly concerned because it's a good time to make money right now. My joke is in where we're at, our market, the market's so hot you can take a listing in the bank and cash the sucker, right? Seriously, I mean, it's like same day hits the market gone. Same day, people don't even have time to think about their decision. They just better write the offer right then, as soon as they see the house. But what's interesting about this particular article and topic, and the reason why we chose this, Jake, was because what it said was, let me read it verbatim. Nope, lost my place. But specifically, the people who trudged forward in spring are being richly rewarded. The people who kept their homes on the market or put their homes on the market during COVID, during the shutdown, who didn't stop working, are reaping the benefits right now. And that was one of the things that we had prescribed strongly, like, hey, put yourself in a position to come out of this thing on top. And what we want to specifically go over is really the cycle and the journey as far as the customer is concerned, because it still eludes so many really smart, really good agents because they've just never been exposed to this thought process or this type of information. Most of the training that we receive in the business doesn't really dive deep into the buyer's journey or the psychology of the customer, and really how to snag them and capture them and make sure they stay your customer throughout that process, so that you can build yourself a nice pipeline. Because here's the thing, if you're not getting yours now, that's okay. There's still time. You know what I mean? You just have to plan for it. You have to position yourself for it, and you have to do it now. Otherwise, you're going to be reading the next headline going, dang, that could have been me. That should be
right?
Me. Yeah.
and when you say fastest, I mean, like, there's a lot to go around, right? So if you're just having a marginal, like, this is a little bit better than what I was doing before, like, you're missing out. And unfortunately, the bad news is that there's nothing you can do about it to capture it right now, but you can start to where in the next few months, next year. And it's I always go back to the Tony Robbins thing. I don't even know who said it originally, but I first heard it from him. Of people underestimate what they can do or overestimate what they can do in a day, in a week, but
it's in a year. Yeah, but they underestimate what they can do in 10 years. And when we watched that guy, he sold his snack bar company for $1 billion. What was his name?
Tom Bilyeu.
Yeah, he was like, we watched him on stage, and he was like, that's true. He's like, but people really underestimate. He's like, it doesn't take 10 years. He said they underestimate what they can do in 5. He said you can do a lot and change your life in 5 years. And so specifically, and we've drawn this out before, what most people do is they go after, just the instant now business, which is where everyone else is going after. They're spending all their money there. And I have an abundance mentality. I had to create an awareness around that. It didn't come natural. I was always under the impression that one for someone else meant one less for me. It was really Dan Kennedy who changed my paradigm in that regard. He said, money is like the ocean, and it doesn't care if you come to it with a teaspoon or a 5-gallon bucket, it's still the ocean. So make sure you come correct, right? Like with what your needs are, what you actually want, and it's never going to go away because it's still the ocean. And so, that being said, with an abundance mentality, it's hard to have that if you don't have some delayed gratification tied to it and really an understanding of the buyer's journey. So, if everybody's going after, let's say that there's in a market 200 transactions in a month and there's 1,000 agents in that market, and I'm just pulling out random numbers, right? Like you couldn't divide that equally. So it feels like this huge rat race where as Zillow pointed out, the people who put their homes on the market in the spring, the agents who were working during COVID, the agents who were thinking longer term than what was in front of them right now, are being richly rewarded. And they said that the average days on the market, and I didn't dive in, so maybe it wasn't globally, but that's what my assumption was, is 20 days. 20 days, around the country, homes are sticking on the market, which is crazy. I know around here it's like one day. It's not 20 days.
No, there's a lot of markets that are like that too.
Yeah,
multiple offers, put it out on Thursday, Friday, Sunday, multiple offers under contract.
And so what we really wanted to do is segue into that buyer's journey and an understanding of that, which we've covered this topic before, but I don't feel like we can cover it enough. So a while back we drew out this little like target, right? So this is all of the now business, right? This is it. And here's all of the agents, right, going after this now business in your marketplace. But this is the 3-month business. This is the 6-month business, right? And this is the 12-month business. And the thing is, there's nobody going after these segments necessarily in any kind of sorry, I'm not much of an artist, in any kind of a concerted effort, right? That is consistent, right? And the agents that do are generally the top agents in your market. And what they have is they have a follow-up plan in place. They have a system in place that works just agnostic of them, right? Like it doesn't require them to keep it up and running, to keep in touch with these people. And sometimes it's not even a system at all. I just got a whole stack of postcards, which were just listed, just sold, and that's their system.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But even that is better than no system at all, And the thing that's hard about that is it costs money and you don't see instant results. And if you're doing it with just listed, just sold, you might not see ever any results that are tangible that you can point to and say, yes, I got this because of that, because there was no real direct response marketing component to test and track those things. But they do it even though they don't know what's coming back and what isn't. There's no marketing saying, I know half of my marketing was wasted. I just don't know which half, right? But even that is still better than not being consistent and not doing something. That's my point.
So let me, just because I'm a numbers person, I had to put numbers to this, right? So I just looked up the DFW. So NDRES is the MLS.
Okay.
Right. So their latest report that came out in June. So new listings that hit the market in the DFW area was 14,587.
Okay.
Pending sales 12,415. Closed sales 12,126, which was up. The closed sales was up 10% from the same time last year.
Okay.
A lot, right? So 54,000 year to date of closed homes. So if you look at the rolling average, it's usually somewhere between 12,500 and 13,000 new listings and closings each month. So when you look at that in that little circle, right?
Yeah.
If you could pick what you could have a certain percentage of, right? Would you pick the 12,000 closings that are going to happen in this month, right? Which have already been worked. So the majority of those are.
Well, let's just say your market share, right? Let's say that you get 1% of that. You know what I mean? Like,
right. So do you want that for that, or do you want it for what's the 11 times 13,000?
133, 130 something.
Right. So it's such, I mean, it's 11x, right? When you look at 1 month versus the rest of the year. And even if you took it for the next 3 months, right? And then said the other people outside of that, I mean, that's 4x, right? So no matter what, when you're talking to people, it's always a journey, right? So you talk to somebody, they're at different stages for different reasons, job, kids, whatever life events they got going on, right?
Yeah.
Pregnant, whatever, right? Like my nephew just bought a house because him and his fiance were about to have a baby, right?
Okay.
If you would have asked him to fill out something a year before, probably wouldn't have happened, right? But he did have a time frame, and it wasn't immediate, but it was before the baby was going to come.
Well,
You know what I mean?
let me stop you before I lose the thought, because I think that it begins with chunking them up, right? You got to chunk them up into categories, and I think that's where a lot of people get lost. I've heard A leads, B leads, C leads, like all kinds of different methodology, but really it's just based on their timing. That's the difference in a lead,
Yes.
aside from whether or not they can buy something, right? And so early on in the relationship, you don't know. So you got to chunk them up somehow, and timing is the way. So it's 0 to 3 months, 3 to 6 months, 6 to 12 months. And the way that you know that is just by asking them. Like, if you were to move, when do you think that might be? If you were to sell, when do you think that might be? You know, they're going to answer. And even if they're wrong, at least you got an answer. At least you got a way to categorize them, which gives you then a game plan to follow up with these people to know, hey, they said that they're going to move in this time. What can I be doing to add value to them, to start to educate them, to start to position myself as an expert and as an authority on this topic in their mind between now and the time that they actually get ready to put their home on the market or buy a home, for that matter. And so I think it's so simple, but it's something that a lot of people just miss. You know what I mean? Like our pipelines are categorized by timing. But there's so many different methodologies out there. It's so easy to miss how important that is. And even just in our conversation, I realized, like, oh man, I think that's because in my mind I'm always like, okay, great, they got a process. I should be going after the later business as well as the now business. What do I do about it, right? Well, I think that's step one, is understand how to categorize them, and then step two is to think through, what are the resources, what are the rhythms of communication that you want to have with them during that duration of time. Like if somebody's moving in 3 months, you're going to want to connect with them more frequently than somebody who's moving in 6, because if they're moving in 6 or even 12 and you're pounding them every week, like you're just going to be annoying to them. They're going to just start to ignore you and discount you, right? Even if you're giving them badass information.
Yeah. And especially if you've done a good job with that initial conversation where you actually got uh like their motivation behind it too. So like anytime you're getting timing, you should find out why they're looking to make a move. And so like if they've clearly told you a extremely good reason on why they're waiting for their kid to graduate from high school, they're a senior going into senior year, so they're going to put it on the market next summer, right? That's a
Yeah.
great situation that you should be able to nail and have a good relationship going forward. But it's not going to be by berating them, being like, "Hey, so when are we gonna put it on the? I already told you." You know what I mean?
Right? Yeah,
You
you
don't
already
focus
know when. I'm waiting
that
for this. Yeah. But
exactly.
but you want to stay in front of them during that time frame, and you want to do it in a way that's cool. You know what I mean? That's not like, putting yourself out there to look like an idiot. And more important than that, you want to do it in a way that makes them think highly of you, which is called positioning in the marketing world. So that when they think of you, they think of you as an expert. So that naturally, when they get closer to their time, they're gonna do business with you above all other options. And I think that what you were trying to communicate earlier, which is, you were essentially saying, would you rather have a percentage of this market, which is the 12,000 transactions now, or would you rather have the same percentage of this market, which would essentially be 36,000 transactions? If it's the same percent, let's just use 10%, for example, which is ridiculous, like
Right.
1,200 transactions. But let's say it's 1,200 transactions. You want 10% of that, right? Anyway, 10% of 3 months out is much more, you know what I mean, collectively, than 10% of the now business. But the thing is, in real estate, it's so hard, because we have to we got to get money now, right? We got to get money now.
Right.
And so it's
Exactly.
hard to think like a businessman or woman and have a game plan around, getting in front of your competitor. Because let me tell you something, it's much easier to convert somebody here earlier on before they have a relationship with another agent than it is here. It's much easier to differentiate yourself and position yourself as an expert here 3 months from now than it is right then on the spot. Right then on the spot, they're just looking for people to open doors. They don't see you as anything other than really an overpaid concierge at that point. You know,
Right.
I mean, I've been sitting in a deal. I remember I had this one deal, and it was when I was rebuilding after the recession. And this lady was buying, it was her and her family. They were buying like $120,000 condo, you know, and they're all excited. They wrote it up, and she's like, "Oh, looking at me, thinking like I'm really excited about this like teeny tiny commission." And she's like, "We changed our mind. We don't want to buy it now." And she's looking at me. She's like trying to aggravate me. I was like, "Oh, okay." But the thing that was insightful to me was like in her mind, right? Like the process was like, "Oh man, I'm gonna have this huge windfall of $3,000, you know." I'm like, lady, that don't even pay my month's bills for the business, you know. But that's what they think sometimes, not always. A lot of
Yeah.
them don't even have an understanding of how we get paid. But it's interesting to me, you know, that because of the way that that relationship was created, which was it was like a now business sign call or something. I forget how it came about. That's what she was thinking, and she just leaked
It
the
just,
information.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, like
It
oh
just
this,
feels so different.
yeah, yeah, totally. You know, now different scenario, selling somebody a seven-figure home that I had worked that customer for a duration of time. I had been able to position myself as an expert, position myself as somebody who was a top in my field. Treats me 100% different. Now, if they would have said that, I would have gotten aggravated. I'm like, oh
Right.
wait, don't change your mind yet. This is more money, right? Like I get excited about this one, but it's hard, like I said, to do this because we're so afraid to invest in ourselves and in our careers and in our business in this industry solely because the formula to get that return on investment still eludes so many agents. And
Yes.
it boils down to even like we've talked about before, the difference in converting sign call or a Zillow lead from somebody who's an internet lead who is earlier in the process.
Yeah.
If you don't have a specific set of skill and in training on how to convert somebody that's earlier in the process, you're not going to convert them, and you're going to blame it on them. You're like, oh, they're no good. They're not a good lead. They're not a good prospect. But really, the truth is, they're just people, and you just don't understand how to communicate to them effectively a value proposition that they see clearly as something that's going to be better than the alternative, which is doing business with another competitor. I was watching a guy last night, Jake, and he said, if you have to think about something, the to make a purchase, he said the value isn't clear. The value isn't clear. If you have to think about something to make a purchase, the value isn't clear. And so if they have to think about which agent that they're going to use, the value isn't clear. You haven't made the value clear to them. And
Yep.
that's a you problem. That's not a them problem. That's your skill set problem. You haven't learned yet how to properly position yourself and how to properly communicate your value in a way that is, again, above and beyond them doing business with anyone else in your marketplace, period.
Exactly. And I think too, it's just funny to actually think about it. Like when you need to have a commission, right? Like
Yeah.
I call it commission breath. And like it's every salesperson, right? Like
Yeah.
when you get down and you're like, oh man, like I need something to pop off quickly, it actually goes backwards because you stop just like treating people like people, and you're not trying to force anything. Like you can sometimes influence what their timing's going to be, right? Like if they're waiting for a certain thing to happen and you can educate them because you're the expert and tell them why, if they don't have any other reason holding them back besides this one thing, then it's probably smarter to do it now. Like the people that I talked to that were like, oh, this COVID thing, I don't think we should list it. We'll probably won't get as many offers. And agents are like, no, this stuff is going so fast. Like, no, no, no,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. Don't wait. Like if you have
Right.
nothing else holding you back, like you should do that, right?
Yeah.
But there's a difference between doing that as a self-serving thing and then doing that as a actual, like you're giving them true advice, right? And it
Man,
just
I
comes off two different ways.
100.
And it's just self-serving thing will always protrude out and just deflect business.
What is like 20% of communication is actually the words that you're speaking? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
People leak information, and emotional intelligence, in my opinion, is the ability to pick up on that leaked information. I had to become like super intuitive to make sure I wasn't showing some guy who's trying to impress his girlfriend while they're on vacation at Lake of the Ozarks 25 homes that he could never afford, right? Like, I got to sniff that out, man. You know what I mean? It like just made my antennas as far as emotional information, emotional intelligence, very high. But it's the same. So like people, they can sense what you're thinking. I think the reason why I've always been really, really good in a one-on-one scenario with someone, especially in a sales environment, is because I think what I want them to think. Right? Like I'm not going to leak the information accidentally. And you have to have some sincerity to be able to do that, right? You can't even fake it if you want to. You have to really believe what it is you're saying and what it is you're doing. But I can't tell you how many times somebody's come to me after the fact. They're like, they didn't take my advice. They didn't list the property at the price that I told them to, or they didn't buy the house that I told them to. And they're like, Mike, I'm so sorry. I wish I would have listened to you. And I'm like, yeah, me too. But we both lost. And I appreciate you coming back and apologizing. But, there's nothing we can do about it now. You know what I mean? Like I've had several of those conversations. Because you do want to guide people, you do want to help them with the right information and advice, and sometimes you do got to nudge them and push them. I can't tell you how many times I've said, if I weren't involved in the transaction, a lot of the transactions that I did, they would have never happened, and that goes against my mental model, which is you can't make a bad deal good, you can't make a good deal bad. Sometimes a good deal doesn't readily, present itself as such. You got to help them think through the process, and that's part of your job, but for the most part, it's tied to that lack of understanding in being able to, you like the black background better, maybe I'll leave it, being able to convert those people properly by communicating the value and then staying at the top of their mind in a way that doesn't suck, right? It's by permission. Yes. They've agreed to get this from you. They've agreed to have this correspondence from you. You're triggering that law of reciprocity, and it's so hard because I know we're speaking in esoteric terms a little bit, but it's just, it starts with awareness. It starts with having this understanding. If you can do this and you can work with people that are 3 months out in a way that is impactful to your business, 3 months from now, you're going to be in a much different position than you are today. And arguably, when that skill set hits, for the rest of your career. That's the thing that's so amazing, because you make these little tweaks and little changes and little educational benefits to yourself. It changes your trajectory, right? It's kind of like an airplane, right? If they're off by just a degree, they'll end up in a totally different place over their journey, right?
Take off for England, end up in Africa.
Right. It's just a small degree of change for your understanding, for your paradigm, and for your skill set. And this was the biggest change for me, like understanding how to do this and how to do this properly. Now, admittedly, I didn't do it even to the level that we do it for our clients, like not even close, but because I did something, it was better than all of our competitors, which basically did nothing,
Right.
Yeah.
In when you think about things, like it's just funny to think back in some conversations that I was a part of, with agents that sell hundreds of houses that are considering some big media plays like TV, radio stuff. Yeah. And it's like, hey, if you don't have minimum of 8 months set aside to let this run without you making a dime from it, don't even think about it. Like just don't do it.
Not just that, like if you don't have a consistent influx of leads coming in, whether they're from online or from print ads and the old toll-free numbers with free recorded message, if you don't have an influx of those leads coming in, having a big branding campaign, it's going to be disappointing. It's going to be disappointing because if you measure your cost per lead, you're going to throw up. But if you have those combined in tandem, what happens is when you call these people who've come in, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, you're that guy on the radio. Oh yeah, you're that lady on TV." That's how it works.
Yeah, I was looking at Tracy's messages, right? So like, it's a good example of when you really start dominating branding in people's eyes, and you have a ton of leads coming in on top of it. How that magically comes together and starts working. But it was like an instant contact plan, And so, lead comes in, they automatically get a text message, hey, I'm going to be your point of contact or whatever. And it was like, I just want to get information on how I can get my home listed by Tracy Cousineau. Like
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that happens, and I think a lot of times people like, oh, that's one off. But no, that's created. You know what I mean? Like, you actively have a plan to like be constantly marketing, and then once you get the critical mass built up and cash flow built up, then you're able to start spending more on branding and stuff. But like with what we did, you're able to do both of them at the same time without having this massive outflow of cash to be able to do both of them at the same time to everybody that's raising a hand in a very targeted approach. And just the other thing that I want to mention before I forget, just to pat ourselves on the back a little bit, the fact that right now, if we set an appointment for one of our clients, right, we call them at the time of the appointment to connect them, like we're their executive assistant as well, right? Call the person, but that call is recorded and put into the person's contact record. And I don't know about you, but me personally, as a salesperson, I have been god awful at leaving good notes.
That's always been my dream, is to have that, especially if they're telling me about their house. You know what I mean? Oh, it's 2,200 square foot, and I'm driving down the road. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It was built in 1972. Blah 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 blah. Whatever the case, you know what I mean? Like that's always been my dream. Like if I could just record this and then somehow magically drop it into the notes of the user profile of my CRM, I wouldn't have to like pull over or like try to not wreck while I'm taking notes, Yeah. No, I mean, you're right. That is a huge, I didn't even think about that. We didn't do it for that. We did it to help them really polish their conversion process to make sure that they're saying the right thing. Because listen, we can generate you a ton of leads. We can set you a ton of appointments. But if you can't get face to face with them when you're talking to these people that we've set on your calendar that have said, yes, I want to speak with you, you're not going to make any money. That's just the sad fact. And so it's not like magic pill. You still got to work, right? You still got to say the things that you need to say in order to bring the value to the front. So the value is apparent in working with you. And then if their timing is now, you got to compel them to get in front of you. 3/4 of all buyers do business with the first person they meet. And I saw a similar stat on the sell side recently. It was like such a high percentage of sellers do business with the first agent they meet.
Yep.
Sounds to me like if you want to make money in the real estate business, you just need to be the first person that customer meets. Fair argument? Yeah. And so, like, hang on. And if that's the case, wouldn't you want to get them like here instead of here? Because they're gonna meet with another agent probably here, but here it's much less likely. Here it's even less likely. You know what I mean? I used to tell people when they'd ask about our product, they'd be like, "Well, how does it work?" I'm like, "Well, imagine being able to wave a magic wand in your market and identify all the people who are going to buy or sell a home in the next 3 to 6 months. Do you think you could make some money with that information, especially if they gave you the name and phone number and requested to talk to you?" You sound like a good salesperson, right? Yeah, I can make some money with that. Okay, we'll get you up. But you still have to have the ability to again, bring the value to the front. That this guy who said that, I mean, I think it was like on TikTok or something I was scrolling through, or maybe Insta, I don't know. And he was just like, people buy the craziest stuff. He's like, I don't know why they buy some of this stuff from some of the craziest people. He said if you have to think about it, the value isn't apparent, it isn't clear, and if the value isn't clear immediately, then you probably shouldn't buy it. And I was like, wow, that's really profound. Like, I'm gonna take that to heart. Make sure our value is clear when we're pitching market maker. Make sure that they know clearly what the value is, so they don't have to think about it. Because if they have to think about it, well, then we didn't do a good job of communicating the value, essentially, right? Yeah, but it's the same with your customers as far as them choosing to meet with you, whether or not they're going to buy or sell now or 3 months or 6 months. If they don't want to meet with you, or they're apprehensive, or you can't get them to meet with you, you're not clearly communicating the value. And there's a lot of ways to increase the value. There's a lot of ways. One of the ways that I used to do is I'd give up just for meeting with us. We're going to give you a free gift bag complete with over $400 worth of coupons that you can use towards your purchase. Coupons and goodies or something. I forget what it was specifically. And people would come to my office, Jake, and they walk in the door and they'd be like, I'm here for my gift bag. They'd have the car running outside with their kids in the car. I'm like, okay, go shut off the car and bring in the kids. Then let's talk about your own purchase. You know what I mean? Which the $400, and I think I bumped it to $1,000 at one point. It was a free appraisal if they used our mortgage company. And then it was also $500 off their commission, which I was just literally knocking off the transaction fee that they could use as a coupon. And so those two things combined with a bunch of swag from like local title company, insurance company, bank across the street. Had one of them like a big clear piggy bank in the shape of a pig, you know, and that was the gift bag. But we did that to improve our appointment show ratio, right? And it did. Mm-hmm. It did. It improved it. Value was more clear right away just for coming in to meet with us. And then when they got there, we would tell them all about the rest of the value and why doing business with us was going to be in their benefit. And by the time we tell them about all the value, they'd be like, well, how much is this going to cost me? Like, yeah, that's a great news. Actually, that's all our fees are paid by the seller, so you don't have to. They'd be like, okay, sign me up. Where do how do I do business with you? You know? Yeah. I mean, we even tested charging them at one point up front, and it worked too because the value was so clear. Anyway, I'll keep ranting about that value.
That's the beauty that is really when you nail the entire process and you're looking at it like a process and not just a moment in time where you need to get a deal. Because the moment in time where you need to get a deal when the commission breath is at its fullest and you're not even listening to what they're saying, because if it's not what you want to hear, you're immediately shutting down and you're taking a future deal and just completely tearing it up in front of your face, right? Like you're still going
you're sending it to a competitor. You send it to a competitor, what you're doing. What you got to realize. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I would love on your drawing. I would love on your drawing to be able to see the amount of people that are 3 to 12 months out that became a lead for some kind of real estate agent company that ended up not doing business with them because they never heard from them again. It would probably make
it might not even be never heard from them again. I mean, at this point, because we're getting more and more sophisticated in the space, maybe they did hear from them, and it was just a single phone call from an ISA that was like, "Hey, I'm just following up with you. Are you getting closer to making your move?" You know what I mean? Like, not really a skilled tactician as far as follow up is concerned, like a Girl Scout compared to a Marine. I mean, with what we're doing for our clients, like we are all over those people in a manner that, like I said, doesn't suck because it's kind of in the background. You know what I mean? It's getting into their subconscious. I love the movie. What is it with Will Smith where he's a con man? Huh? No, he's a con man. And remember, they conned that guy into choosing that number, and they had the song playing in the background, which is the Chinese word for 10. Yeah. Like that. I don't know how real that actually is, but from the research I've done, subliminal messaging is not more effective than just straight out telling somebody what you want them to do. Like they're both equally effective. So you don't even have to be creative about it. Like people want to be told what to do. So when you're talking to these people, tell them what to do. Here's what we're going to do, right? They need to be led, especially in the process of buying or selling real estate. You got to think of yourself more as a Sherpa than anything else. You know what I mean? Like you're helping them get up this mountain. You're helping them get to the top. You're helping them get to the finish line. They need your direction. They need your guidance. And if you don't give that to them, you are more likely to lose the opportunity than if you did. And I think that that's a big paradigm shift as well. Most of the time people are like, oh, well, I don't want to be too forward or too bossy. Listen, I'm a high I personality, believe it or not. I just want to influence them into it. Like, hey, here's all the information you need. If I were you, I'd want to know this stuff. And by the way, here's what I can do for you. Would you like me to do X? Cool. I'll get that done for you. And I'll follow up with you when's a closer time to when you're going to be ready to look at some homes or, find out what your home is worth in detail so I can come out and tell you. That's it. It's over and over and over. Yeah, I was telling somebody the other day, on my team, if you were to join my team, the first thing you learn is a script. The second thing you learn is a presentation, buyer presentation, seller presentation, to convert those people, because the script's going to work. The leads are going to be there. And if you give them the presentation, they're going to do business with you. You know, even my rookies would like go up against some of the most seasoned agents in town using the presentations that we gave them in the scripts and convert them. I was like, I would be shocked. Damn, I can't believe. I mean, and they were interviewing so and so. Yep. Wow. Yep. Powerful stuff. Bringing the value to the front. Make sure you clearly communicate the value. So powerful. Yep. If people think that this is a relationship business, let me tell you the relationship that people are in. They're in a relationship with themselves. They're going to do what's best for them and their family. And so if you can present that to be you in the process and in the transaction, they're going to do business with you. It's as simple as that. It's just, that's all there is to it.
And there's only so many points, right? So like, you got the leads that come in, you got a certain amount that you're going to actually connect with.
Right.
And of those people that you connect with, there's going to be a certain amount that you're actually able to get face-to-face with.
Yes.
And then of those people you get face-to-face with, there's a certain percentage that will actually become clients, right? So
100%.
When you simplify it as much as you possibly can, at any point there's a bottleneck in your process.
Right.
And you have to focus on alleviating the biggest bottleneck and then moving on to the next one. Right?
Which is what we did. That's why we deliver prepositioned appointments. We removed the bottleneck that was the bane of most agents' existence. Calling these leads, prospecting them, chasing them around. Like, they're just all nice, neat packaged bow. Boop, here you go on your calendar, right? Yes. But there's still the next bottleneck, which is you clearly communicating your value to that person to get to do business with them now or in the future.
Yeah. And you have to be coachable enough to follow the process, because like that's not fun to have to look internally, right? Like, it's the easy part is to blame the external forces. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And we try to ask people questions in our sales process to see if they're internally focused or externally focused, you know?
Yeah.
Try to get rid of the people who are like, oh, everything's somebody else's fault. We don't need victims around here. We need people who are victors trying to get to where they want to be.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's so much in the mindset. But if you can really take that, it gets explosive fast when you're looking at it and just being like, okay, this is my bottle and this is what I need to work on. And the minute I crack that, because like a little bit of a increase here goes a long way, right? Like running the branding stuff that we do with billboards and park benches and following these people around, Amazon style with retargeting and stuff. That is impactful at the beginning, but it is even more impactful after doing it for 6 months, 12
Oh,
months.
man. And especially after you spoke with them. And they're like, oh, yeah, I know this guy. I know this guy.
Name. Exactly.
Yeah. Like, this person's a big deal, and I can reach out and call them. In fact, they're sending me properties that they promised me. They're sending me information on a regular basis. I have a relationship. It makes them feel more important, which gives them an increase in status, which is, what is that? Serotonin. Yep. And it's just powerful. It's a powerful mix. It's hard. I mean, it's the next best thing to like alchemy. I mean, it's really, it's hard. It's hard to compete against that. And the good news is there's so few agents that are doing it properly, even today, with all the advances that we've made as an industry and innovations. The truth is that most of these advancements and innovations have made more agents more lazy, right? They're not trying to go to capture more. They're just trying to, keep the status quo because it's easy, to throw money at this particular Zillow, for example, and get a marginal return on investment. So I'm just going to keep doing that because it works. I know it works. I can depend on it. And so I'm not going to try to do anything more. Well, there are times when things like that change and dry up, and a business built on one pillar is easily crumbled. So don't do that to yourself. Let's get out of here, Jake.
No.
Hey, if you guys want some help with this stuff,
all right,
go to marketmakercall.com. Watch a short video on how we help you with all these things, generating leads, nurturing leads in a way that elevate your status and authority in the mind of those leads, and then ultimately deliver them to your calendar as a pre-positioned appointment. It is exclusive with one agent per zip code. Go to marketmakercall.com and check it out.
So, as we always say at Market Maker, you are always just one pre-position appointment away.
Every day.
Or day.
Later.
Go get it.